Hey there folks, and welcome into the Truck King YouTube channel. This is an exciting video because we are finally getting behind the wheel of a Rivian. This is the 2025 Rivian R1S Tri-Motor. This is already the second generation of this vehicle, and I can't wait to review it. So in this video, we'll look at all the features, do a complete walk around. You know we're gonna go for a drive and try launch control. And then because we're Truck King, we're also gonna hook up a trailer and talk about the towing experience. So make sure you stay tuned. Let's take a closer look right now at this R1S. So first of all, powertrain specs. This is the R1S Tri-Motor. That is 2 motors in the back and 1 in the front. Total system output, 850 horsepower. And all of that also means it can make the dash from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 2.9 seconds. And yes, you know we're gonna launch it in just a little bit. But for now, let's take a closer look at the features. Of course, like most EVs, we do have a frunk here. It is operated by a button down there, so you get your floor. You get a couple of these nice sort of mesh bins up here, handy for groceries, and the floor also lifts up, and that's all of our charging equipment down below. So nice to have the covered storage for your chargers. Tuck that back in there, easy enough. And then the one other thing you can get to over here is a little port to add your windshield washer fluid. So nice to have that as well. Not quite as big as some of the other frunks out there on the market, but still necessary to have. And I was looking for an overhead button, but it's only down here. And there it goes. Now, this is the R1S. It does have the added all-terrain package. So yeah, this one is about getting off-road, and you're gonna see some nods to that. First of all, nice big exposed tow hooks. I like how far out these come from the bumper. And like I mentioned, that because we have that package, you're getting upgraded skid plates underneath. Now, we are gonna do a full off-road video with this R1S, but that's not this video. So make sure you stay tuned here to the channel, and you can see us taking this thing through the mud, and we'll put it up on the rack and look at the skid plates. But for now, we're just staying on road in this one. Now we get to the next off-road upgrade, the tires. That is a set of 34-inch tires. In this case, we're talking about Pirelli Scorpion all-terrains, and they're wrapped around 20-inch wheels. That is a nice looking wheel and tire package. Now behind that, we have full air suspension here on our R1S as well. And when you lift that air suspension up, this thing gets right around 14 inches of ground clearance. So once again, talking about off-roading, it should be pretty dang good. Now as we come down the side, one nice quirk of the Rivian, it does have these powered door handles, and these are proximity based. So when I walk up to the vehicle with my key, or even with my phone, because your phone can be the key, these are going to pop out and allow you to open the door. If the Rivian is locked and someone else walked up to it, these would stay flush, so you wouldn't even be able to get into them. Now as we get around to the rear end, we can take a look at this hatch back here. So it is powered on top, and then it's actually a little split gate, and you get a little tailgate down below, which is pretty nice, and it's not a bad amount of storage. Now you can already see this is a 3-row vehicle, so when you're using this 3rd row, yeah, it's gonna eat up some of that storage space, and then if you don't have passengers in the back, put that down, and that's gonna show a lot more storage. And I can fold them from here to show you if you're not using it. That is a massive amount of space back there, which I appreciate. Now when it comes to features, you are getting these slidable cleats over here in the floor, so you can move those around and tie things down wherever you need to. So that's kind of nice if you're on an adventure. And then one other neat adventure feature is over here on this side, and that is right there. That is an air compressor, so you have onboard air here for blowing up your tires, someone else's tires, or maybe using some air tools. So yeah, lots of great features at the back end of this Rivian. Finally, I'll talk towing and payload. Max towing on this model, 7,700 pounds. And let's check the door jamb sticker for payload. The number here is incredibly impressive, 1,581 pounds of payload, which is more than we see on basically any other SUV or truck that we test. And yeah, why don't we go for a drive now and get the heck out of the rain? Let's go. Now we're inside. Let's take a closer look at some of the technology in this Rivian, because it definitely stands out and it is loaded with all kinds of tech. And we'll start where we normally start, with the camera system. So we go ahead and hit this camera button here on the screen. That brings up your camera views. That's your front view down the sides as well, and those are your front tires. You can see them turning right there. So that is nice. And then there's your rear view, and those are looking back at your rear tires, and you get those predictive guidelines. And one thing worth mentioning is these are all 4K cameras, and they definitely look it. It's a really nice crisp screen, and I like that it uses the whole screen rather than just a small box on a large screen, which we see from some other brands. So now I want to go through some of the controls here on this R1S because they're so different than what we see on other vehicles. So first of all, up here, if you touch this little car icon, it brings up some of your shortcuts, some quick things you want to get to. So you can fold your mirrors in. You can use these to light up the outsides. That one's going to pop your charging port open. That one's going to pop your front open. This one's really cool. It controls the glass above our heads, which can actually go from opaque to clear just with the touch of a button. So on a sunny day, if you don't want all that sun beating in, you can make it opaque and then hit that and it'll go back to a clear sunroof. So that is pretty cool. Now the next one, and this one is definitely really different, the steering wheel and the side mirror controls are done using the buttons on the wheel. So first we'll go to steering wheel. So you can see I roll over here and the wheel goes up and down. I roll on the left and now it goes in and out. And then same with the mirrors. You hit the mirror button, and now these controls are now controlling my right side mirror. So that's up and down, that's in and out. These controls are now on my left side mirror. So this is definitely one extra step. Most vehicles, the window or the mirror controls, I should say, are right over here next to your steering wheel. I think the reason Rivian really does this is because you get this clean dash. There's no buttons, there's no toggles, there's nothing besides the two screens in this beautiful wood. And I gotta say, from a design standpoint, it really does look nice. So yes, is this unnecessary? Some would say yes, but I do like the clean look that it allows. Now this is the next screen we can look at. This is sort of your general vehicle information screen, and I really like it. On my left is all the drive modes, the thing that control how the vehicle will handle. So you get different regen levels right there. Because it's an EV, you get regenerative braking. So if you put that on high and lift off the brakes while you're on the move, you get a really aggressive grab and really aggressive regen braking. Obviously low is the opposite end. The ride feel is nice to be able to control. That's your stability control and your height using your airbags. And then all the drive modes up here. You get your sport mode, you get your snow mode, and when you put it in sport, you get the little checkered flag that comes up. That is launch control, and you'll see that in a bit. And we have a whole suite of off-road modes too: all-terrain, rock crawl, soft sand, rally, and drift. So yeah, this thing really is ready for some adventure. And I like when you go into off-road, it changes some of our gauges over here. So you get your inclinometer, the elevation, the compass, and then the drivetrain screen is going to show you where the power is being routed to at all times, so you can kind of understand what's going on beneath you. And yes, it has trailer modes as well, so you can save different trailer profiles. It's going to track your efficiency with the trailer, so that is nice, and we're going to put that to the test too. So much technology here in this Rivian, which is just really neat to see. And this is a first for us. I've never been in a Rivian before, so I am experiencing this all for the first time. And my one comment based on that is everything's been intuitive. It is a lot to take in and a lot of differences because everything's in the screen, but so far I found everything quite quickly. Finally, I just wanted to show you the general charge screen. Shows you how much charge you have, and it shows you your last charging session. So for me, this was on a level 1 charge. It plugged in at my house 14 hours overnight, and I got back 18.3 kilowatt hours. So nice to have all that info, and I'm sure we'll come back to this technology as we drive. But yeah, now let's get out there and hit the road. All right, Dad, time to go for a drive, and we're gonna launch this thing. Let's feel it. So first of all, you go to sport mode.
Sport.
You hit our little checkered flag, and now we drag our little friend up. Prepare to launch. So press and hold brake, and then you're gonna press and hold accelerator at the same time. So you see the top?
At the same time?
Yeah.
So you want me to do 2-foot pedal?
Right.
Okay.
Continue. Continue, getting ready. Getting ready. Launch.
Holy shit.
It is wild. Oh my gosh, absolutely wild.
Instantaneous headache. Oh, wow.
Yeah, my belly did a flip-flop.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know, what else can
and
you
like
say?
next to no spin. Absolutely grabbed and just hooked right
You're
up.
right, and the road is wet. It was just raining an hour ago, so we got these big old all-terrains on here, but even in the wet, it managed that traction and stability control, and
Wow.
it just hits. It's definitely one of the quickest vehicles I've ever been in, and I guess that stands out because it's not some little tiny sports car, low slung to the ground. You just get this big, you get the sense it's a big SUV, and yet it can still do that, so crazy, man, absolutely crazy.
I don't know. I just question why I'd want to do that more than once.
Just to show your friends.
Oh, jeez. I'll leave that up to you. Wow, that was almost painful.
All right, so with the craziness out of the way, let's just talk about how this thing, drives when you're going the speed limit on a nice straight road. And I will just say that Rivian specifically said when they came out with this is the second generation already of the R1S, they focused on making it more comfortable. They heard from their customers that they'd made it a little too stiff, a little too sport focused. So the whole idea with this generation was to make it softer. Now, I haven't been in a first generation Rivian, so I don't have that comparison, but I can say after driving this thing for a week, I definitely think it's a nice, calm, smooth ride. It's an EV, so it's quiet. It definitely has that air of luxury. The things you want out of a luxury vehicle, they're here. And I know you've only been driving it for a short period of time, but what do you feel from behind the wheel in terms of suspension, handling, all that?
The feel is comparable to other large upmarket ATVs, SUVs.
Right.
Yeah.
And the other nice thing here too, like we have in a lot of other vehicles, you can set it how you want, Dad. So right now we have the ride feel in soft, but at the touch of a button, you can make the ride feel firm up, and that's using the airbags and the dampers to give you that stiff ride. So not only can you get the comfort, but then you can get the nice tight handling feel if you want that as well. So.
And that's a great feature for the guy who every day goes, how do I feel today? It changes everything.
Right, and now just in terms of drive modes, we have all-purpose, that's what we're in now. You have sport mode, snow mode, and then conserve. And that last one may be obvious, but it's all about conserving your electricity. So it's gonna dial back some of that power, dial back some of that throttle tip in, and make sure you get the range out of it that you need. Now talking about range, that's another definite positive in my eyes. When this thing is 100% full, you're almost at 600 kilometers of range. And, just driving it this week, I feel like the range estimates have always been sort of under promising and over delivering, which is what you want out of your range estimate. You want it to say 10 kilometers, but you actually get 20. So yeah, I've been feeling good about the range. And the charging, I took it to a fast charger. I was getting 116 kilowatts out of the charger, and that was gonna get me back to full in basically less than an hour, so 45-ish minutes, and I was at about 20%. So anyways, all of those EV things, they're also quite good here. So you have to still get used to the charging, used to the range, used to the fact it's an EV, but when it comes down to it, how it compares across the market, they nailed all that stuff as well.
So many of these things are now becoming more commonplace. More people are getting used to them. They're getting a little simpler to use, and you're getting more out of what you already own. And of course, if you buy this, you're going to have a home charging system.
Correct.
So with a little bit of luck, most of the time you're only charging at home. So that's a no-brainer because you're not sitting there waiting for it.
Yep, if you have a level 2 charger, you wake up every morning with full range, and how often do you go more than 600 kilometers? So that's definitely a positive point, and it's a point that a lot of reviewers miss, but as an owner, that's basically the ownership experience. So Dad, let's just zoom in on the interior real quick. I think very simply, you can just say it's beautiful. I love this wood. It feels so nice. The texture is great. The different materials, the attention to detail, the plaid on the, headliner, on the little details here on the
Floor mats.
Yeah, floor mats I meant. And then up here on the handles, you get the plaid too. Yeah, details, and that's what you notice in these high-end luxury vehicles. Every little detail is just gorgeous. And the other thing that, lends to that feeling is the clean layout of this dash. There's no buttons or knobs here whatsoever. Everything has been put into the screen, which I'm somewhat okay with, and then I do have some gripes. So for example, to adjust your steering wheel, to adjust your mirrors, you're doing that in the screen and you're using those controls on the steering wheel. I can live with that. The one I don't understand is the vents. To move my vents around, I have to go into the HVAC screen and then drag this little icon, and that moves my motorized vent. And this is one where, you know what, yeah, my practical brain just cannot get behind this. Why do I need another motor? Why can't I just move my vent? Maybe I'm missing the point because it's a $160,000 luxury vehicle, but yeah, that's my thought on that. There is some overcomplication here.
Well, you got to remember, when you've got a design team that's full of engineers, they love to impress each other. So when Bob comes in and says, look at what I did, everybody's like, oh, dude, that is so cool. We got to include that.
So I think based on that, yeah, you can boil this down to there are some things here that aren't super practical, that might just be a little bit flashy. But if you buy this vehicle, you will not be disappointed in the amount of luxury or really over-the-top features that are here, and that's what they're going for. So part of me goes, yeah, we don't need this, and then the other part of me thinks, you know what, for the target customer, this is bang on.
And that's who we have to think about, because truthfully, you and I, we're not the target customer for this vehicle.
That's fair enough.
So, yeah, it's not fair for us to condemn something that we would probably never own.
Mm-hmm. But don't jump to that conclusion just yet, because now it's time to hook up a trailer and let's find out how it tows, and maybe the towing experience will be so dang good that you just need one.
Maybe.
Okay, everybody, time to tow, but first we got to take off this hitch cover down here. There we go. There's your hitch. All right, trailer's hooked up now. Let's go up front and take a look at what the screen says to us. So, switch to all purpose for towing, okay. Airbags are gonna raise up. There we go. So it detected our trailer right here, which is nice. Now this is all our stats while we're towing, and you can see right here, it does have an integrated trailer brake controller. It's just built into the screen. So you can simply set your brake gain on the screen like that, and we'll play around with that when we're actually on the move. And then the other nice thing is, of course, there's trailer profiles. So you can set up to your specific trailer different settings, such as the trailer gain. And then when you click there, it's also going to tell you, roughly what your efficiency is going to be, because it will already have looked at that specific trailer. So nice to see that tech. Nice to see the trailer brake controller built in. And, another neat thing I just saw over here on the screen right in front of me, there's actually a little trailer brake gauge, which goes up and down as I brake. So it's actually telling me exactly how much brakes are being applied back there on the trailer. That's not something we usually have to sort of signify exactly how much trailer brake's on. So that's sort of neat too. And once again, now let's go for a drive and see how it actually feels. Okay, everybody, now it's time for the 0 to 60 test. We got 5,000 pounds on. We're going to do 0 to 100 kilometers an hour. Let's see how this thing does. Ready, Dad? On go. 3, 2, 1, go. And 80, 90, 100! That was a 7-second 0 to 100 with a 5,000 pound trailer on the back. That is the top of the leaderboard by far. Now granted, a lot of the times we do 7,000 pounds. We didn't want to go right to 7 with this thing because the tow rating's 7,700. We don't normally push right to the max. But I can almost guarantee you with 7,000 pounds, it would be just as quick. So yes, that was pretty unbelievable.
It really was.
Now the only, if you want to call it a downside, is that I definitely felt the nose get light, right? When you nailed it, the nose comes up a bit and you had to steer a little bit.
I had to do a little bit of counter steer because it would start to pull to one side, I had
Right.
to bring it back in.
Yeah, the rear end just hunkers down, the nose lifts, and I'm assuming that's just from the G-forces straight up, just the weight on the back combined with that G-force. So yeah, that's not great under hard acceleration, but yeah, I mean, what else can you say? It's ridiculously quick, even with the trailer on. And we might as well compare it now with the other vehicles we've done 5,000 pounds with, so you can take a look at the leaderboard here. So we have established it's ridiculously quick. But outside of that, Dad, how does it actually tow? You know, what are you feeling just going down the road?
I can feel the trailer on it. The
Okay.
back end, you know, with the air suspension, I mean, it has leveled itself. But I feel the back end hunkering down a little bit, maybe more than what I would expected.
Fair enough, yeah, and I noticed that too. It does say it would self-level, but the rear still seemed to be sagging a bit. But I guess how does that make you feel in terms of the driving experience? Are you compensating for it? Do you feel like the trailer's moving the vehicle at all?
At normal highway speed, no, I don't need to compensate for it, but I do feel the front end is just a hair floaty.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. And part of that is also wheelbase, right? This is not a massive vehicle. The wheelbase here is not nearly as long as what we usually test with half-ton trucks, and especially, you know, big HDs and stuff. And then, yeah, just straight up the air suspension. That's just the feeling you're getting. I'll say from over here, overall ride comfort doesn't feel compromised at all. It still feels nice and comfy cruising down
Well,
the road.
that's what you're getting. That's the saw-off.
Right.
On the other hand, you know what? You're towing a 5,000-pound travel trailer or a boat, and this is going to do the job.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's it. So max tow rating here is 7,700 pounds. Rivian specifically says that over 5,000 you need an equalizing hitch, which is fair. I'm not sure I'd want to go right to 7,000 pounds, but right around 5, that's probably a good sweet spot for this kind of vehicle. Now, we should mention some of the towing features in here. So there is a trailer brake controller. I mentioned this earlier. It's built into the screen. But one thing that's really cool is you can manually control your trailer brakes using a button on the steering wheel. Because anyone who's used a brake controller knows you usually have the little, you know, pinch point where you can pinch it and activate those brakes. And I already mentioned that I always think that's important in an emergency situation. If that trailer's fishtailing, you can grab those trailer brakes. But then you actually brought up the better point, which is just for setting your trailer brakes, setting the proper gain, you need to be able to grab them independently of the vehicle. So I'm happy to see Rivian really thought that through, you know?
Yeah, that's important because you can't set your gain until you actually feel how hard the brakes are grabbing. And
Right.
of course, what you want to avoid is having them lock up.
And I got to tell you, Dad, I think this is the future. I think all trailer brakes pretty soon are just going to be built right into the screen. Why do they need their own little physical buttons or screen? You know, I think it's only like that because we're used to it being like that. But I can see very soon most manufacturers doing this. Just build it in, and then you don't have to sort of worry about it as a separate little screen or little set of buttons.
You're right. And like everything else, everything is being compartmentalized, miniaturized, and included.
Sure. Sure. So yeah, nice to see that the trailer brakes are included. On the downside, I'll say, and you can comment on this more, but from over here, the mirrors don't seem very big. They don't seem very great for towing. Would you agree?
If you were towing regularly, you'd want to go get some kind of aftermarket extensions, clip-ons, because I can barely see the edges of my trailer, but there's just not a lot of surface area here.
Right. Right, and then finally, the thing I feel like we have to touch on, because everyone always asks, is about range. And yes, even with this trailer, when we dropped it on there and the Rivian detected a trailer, it lopped over 100 kilometers off the range without even knowing what the trailer was. So it just right away goes, oh yeah, trailer's on, you know, definitely gonna cut the range. Now that we've been driving, it's been updating in real time. So we saw it kind of shoot back up about 20 kilometers, and then especially since we just did those 0 to 60 pulls, it's now gone down quite a bit. So I'm not, you know, this is not a hot take. Your range is going to suffer with the trailer. You can expect half of your normal range once you put the trailer on, and that's just something you always have to keep in mind with EV towing. Right?
That's pretty much been established, but probably the most important thing here is that the computer is doing real-time updates as to what your range is, so that you don't got to worry that it's wrong and you're suddenly going to run out.
So this is cool, Dad. I'm now looking down at our trailering screen. Check it out. It actually says the range at 100% with this specific trailer will be 280 kilometers, and it's pegged our trailer weight at 2,500 kilograms. So it is actually also measuring the weight of that trailer, probably just based on the forces, and that's pretty much dead on. So that's pretty neat,
it is.
Man. And that's why these screens are maybe even more important in an EV, because if you owned 3 different trailers, it would tell you, hey, with your travel trailer, your range at 100% will be X. Hey, with your boat, your range at 100% will be X, because as we know, all trailers are not created equal. So I love to see the profiles, and in an EV, like I said, I think that's maybe more important because you need that information. You want to know how far you can go. That's cool. All right, Dad, well, I think we've established, is the Rivian R1S something you would describe as a tow rig? Probably not. I don't think towing was, at the forefront of what they were going for. But as an adventure vehicle, it has to be able to tow competently, and I would say it's definitely doing that. And I think I say this in most of our videos, but I'll put the disclaimer out there. Even with this trailer, you probably want an equalizing hitch. That would go a bit of a way to taking some of that squirreliness out of it. But for the most part, I think it's doing a dang good job. And if you never want to worry about merging onto a highway ever again, or don't forget about this, Dad, in the mountains, this wouldn't lose even 1 horsepower. So if you live in Colorado, it's a really big deal having an EV.
That's it.
So yes, you got to keep those things in mind. But yeah, if you never have to worry about that interstate on-ramp ever again, here's your choice. Well, folks, we have come to the end of this video. Now, after all our testing, and yes, we did go off-road, make sure you go watch that video here on the channel, I can confidently say that the Rivian R1S is an incredibly capable vehicle. But at this price point, honestly, it needs to be more than that. And it is. It's unique and it feels truly special. This doesn't feel like anything else on the market that I've ever driven anyways. And that's what you want for something at this price point. So not only is it good at what it does, but yes, if you can afford it, if you do spend this money, I don't think you're gonna be disappointed. So yeah, folks, that's the end of this one. Now please go in the comments, let me know what you think of this Rivian. As always, while you're down there, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, hit join to become a member, and then come right back here to the channel to see what we're testing next.